I never thought reading my sister's diary would shatter my marriage and destroy the only family I've ever known. But here I am, alone in a dark house at 3 a.m., still shaking from what I've discovered. My name's Madison. I'm 28, and until tonight, I believed I had a near-perfect life. I was married to Ryan, my high school sweetheart, a guy everyone always described as the good one. Steady job, nice manners, dependable, loyal. We'd been together since we were 16, dating all through college, getting married as soon as we graduated. By the time we turned 28, we'd bought our first home, a cozy 2-bedroom house just outside Denver, and we were even starting to talk about having kids. I worked as an elementary school teacher, and Ryan was an architect at a small, successful firm downtown. Our weekends were quiet, happy routines, farmers markets, Netflix marathons, brunches with friends. We had what my mother always called a life most people dream about. But dreams have a funny way of hiding nightmares beneath the surface. My younger sister, Lily, had always been the wild card in our family. 4 years younger, Lily was spontaneous, vibrant, and the complete opposite of me. She dyed her hair different colors almost monthly, lived in bohemian apartments with roommates she met at bars, and hopped from one freelance job to another without a second thought. Growing up, our parents constantly compared us. I was the responsible one, the one who always had it together, while Lily was the free spirit, the one who could charm her way out of anything. Despite our differences, Lily and I were always close. Maybe because she was my total opposite, I admired how freely she lived her life. And Lily adored Ryan. From the moment I brought him home at 16, Lily treated him like the older brother she'd always wanted. She constantly joked about stealing him from me, but it was always playful and harmless, or so I thought. 6 months ago, Lily went through a particularly rough breakup and lost her job in graphic design all in the same week. Feeling guilty for my stable life while she was struggling, I insisted she move in with us temporarily, just until she got back on her feet. Ryan agreed immediately, saying, "Lily's family. She can stay as long as she needs." The first few weeks were actually wonderful. Lily brightened up the house. She filled our evenings with laughter and silly jokes. Ryan seemed to genuinely enjoy her company too, joining in on her wild ideas for spontaneous road trips and late-night ice cream runs. At first, it warmed my heart, seeing my husband and sister bond so naturally. But soon, subtle changes began to creep in, changes so small, I almost convinced myself they weren't happening. Ryan and Lily started sharing inside jokes that left me confused and slightly out of place. I'd walk into the kitchen to find them abruptly stop laughing, exchanging awkward glances. At first, I brushed it off as harmless sibling-like bonding. Then Ryan started behaving oddly around her. He'd avoid sitting next to Lily when we watched TV together, suddenly making excuses to leave the room whenever she walked in. He began coming home later and later from work, always tired, always distracted. And Lily became quieter too, suddenly withdrawn and distant, often locking herself in her room for hours without explanation. My gut was whispering that something wasn't right, but I kept silencing it. "You're being paranoid," I'd tell myself. "Ryan would never do anything to hurt you, especially not with Lily." But tonight, everything changed. Ryan had left early that evening for a work-related dinner. Lily said she was meeting some friends downtown and wouldn't be back until late. Alone in the quiet house, anxiety nagged at me relentlessly. Trying to distract myself, I decided to tidy Lily's room, something I'd never done before. I thought it might clear my head, maybe even remind me how silly my suspicions were. As I straightened her bed, my hand accidentally knocked a small black notebook off her nightstand. It fell open, revealing pages covered in Lily's familiar messy handwriting. I knelt to pick it up, intending to close it immediately, until a line caught my eye. "I can't keep doing this. Madison is my sister. If she ever finds out, it'll kill her." My heart froze. What couldn't she keep doing? What could be so bad it would destroy me? Hands trembling, I flipped back a page and read another line that made my stomach twist violently. Ryan says he wants to end things, but he never does. Each time he tries, we end up back in the same mess, tangled together when Madison isn't around. He says he still loves her, but I know he loves me too. What have we done? The notebook fell from my hands as bile rose in my throat. My vision blurred with tears, heart pounding painfully. My sister and my husband. My entire world, collapsing in a single moment of betrayal. I never thought reading my sister's diary would destroy my life, until tonight. I don't know how long I sat there on Lily's bedroom floor, my breathing ragged, heart hammering painfully against my ribs. Every word from her diary stabbed deeper, ripping open wounds I hadn't even known existed. My hands trembled as I forced myself to keep reading, even though each sentence was pure agony. Last night, Ryan told me he felt guilty, but not guilty enough to stop. He kissed me like he always does, hard enough to leave bruises. I begged him to let me go, told him we couldn't keep doing this to Maddie, but he just pulled me closer and whispered, "I can't live without you." I hate that I believed him. Again. I felt dizzy, the reality of their betrayal hitting me all at once. Ryan and Lily, my husband and my sister. It felt surreal, like a nightmare from which I desperately wanted to wake. But no matter how much I wished it away, the ink in Lily's handwriting screamed the ugly truth. Suddenly, every suspicious glance, every secretive smile, every whispered conversation made perfect, horrifying sense. I was drowning in a flood of memories. The countless times Ryan had lingered in the hallway near Lily's room, claiming he was fixing the thermostat, the way he'd jump whenever his phone buzzed, always turning the screen away from me. I'd naively brushed it off as stress from work, never imagining the truth was right under my nose. My heart burned with humiliation and rage. How could Lily, my own sister, do this to me? How could Ryan, my Ryan, betray me in such an unforgivable way? I snapped the diary shut, but my curiosity, my need for answers, overwhelmed my disgust. Shaking, I opened it again and skimmed forward, desperate to know more, even if it destroyed me. Ryan promised tonight would be the last time, but he says that every single night. Every time I try to leave, he finds a way to pull me back in. But it's not only him, I keep coming back, no matter how guilty it makes me feel. I'm addicted to him, to us, and I hate myself for it. Reading those words felt like acid eating through my heart. Lily wasn't a victim, she was an active participant, willingly tearing apart my marriage. My whole body shook with anger, betrayal, and confusion. I slammed the diary closed, stood up unsteadily, and stumbled out of Lily's room. My head spun as I paced the house, unable to find a place to settle. Images flooded my mind, Ryan's gentle touches, our vows at our wedding, Lily's smile when I invited her into our home, thinking it was the right thing to do. How could they both have deceived me so completely? Suddenly, the front door opened quietly. I froze in the hallway, my heart leaping painfully into my throat. Ryan stepped inside, eyes tired, tie loosened around his neck. When he saw me standing there pale-faced and trembling, he paused, concern filling his voice. "Maddie, what's wrong?" I stared at him, at the face I'd loved for 12 years, the face I'd trusted completely, and felt a hot surge of bitterness. "How was your dinner?" I asked, my voice cold, controlled. "Fine, exhausting," he replied cautiously, stepping closer. "Madison, you're scaring me. Did something happen?" "I don't know," I whispered. "You tell me." Ryan's eyes flickered briefly toward Lily's closed bedroom door, then back to me, panic flashing across his features. "What do you mean?" he asked slowly. I held Lily's diary tightly in my hand, hiding it behind my back. My pulse pounded in my ears as I took a step closer. "I mean, is there something you'd like to tell me, Ryan? Something you've been hiding from me?" His face paled noticeably, fear creeping into his eyes. He shook his head slightly, clearly trying to read how much I already knew. "Maddie, please," he said softly, "don't do this right now." "Don't do what?" My voice shook with barely controlled rage. "Ask you why you've been sleeping with my sister." His eyes widened, shock mixing with guilt and horror. He opened his mouth, closed it again, clearly searching for words, excuses, anything. Maddie, wait. I read her diary, I interrupted, unable to bear his lies. I know everything. I trusted you both, and you've been lying to my face this whole time. Ryan's shoulders slumped, defeat flooding his expression. His voice broke when he finally spoke. It wasn't supposed to happen. We never wanted to hurt you. That's comforting, I snapped bitterly. How generous of you both. He reached toward me, but I recoiled instinctively. Don't you dare touch me, I hissed, tears spilling down my face. How could you? Maddie, please, let me explain. What is there to explain? I shouted, losing all composure. How long, Ryan? Weeks? Months? Or has it been going on the entire time Lily's been living here? He looked away, shame coloring his face. Months, he admitted quietly. I'm so sorry. I swear I wanted to stop. We both tried, but... You didn't try hard enough, my voice cracked painfully. She's my sister, Ryan, my family. You took that from us. I know, I'm sorry. Tears filled his eyes. I'll do anything, Maddie, anything to fix this. You can't fix this, I whispered, choking back sobs. You've destroyed everything we had. Ryan dropped his head, unable to argue. Silence hung heavy between us until finally, I found the strength to speak again, my voice numb with pain. I want you out of this house tonight. Ryan's head shot up, fear evident. Madison, please. Get out, I repeated coldly. Now. He hesitated, anguish etched across his face. But he finally turned toward the bedroom to gather his things, leaving me standing alone, shattered and broken, in the hallway of our once happy home. After Ryan left, the house felt oppressively empty. I sank onto the living room couch, my body trembling with exhaustion and emotional overload. Hours crawled by, the ticking clock a constant reminder of my shattered reality. Eventually, I heard Lily's keys jangling at the front door, and rage surged within me again. She walked in quietly, clearly surprised to see me awake. Her cheerful expression dropped instantly when she saw my swollen, tear-streaked face. Maddie, are you okay? She asked softly, cautiously approaching me. I stared at her, heart pounding painfully. How could you do it? She froze, eyes widening in sudden fear. Do what? You and Ryan, I whispered, voice breaking again. I read your diary, Lily. I know everything. Her face drained of color instantly. She looked as though I'd slapped her, her hands beginning to shake. Maddie, Save it, I interrupted harshly. I trusted you both. I opened my home to you, and you betrayed me in the worst way possible. Tears filled Lily's eyes, but anger replaced her fear. You read my diary? Maddie, that's private. Oh, forgive me, I snapped sarcastically, bitterness coloring my voice. I didn't mean to invade your privacy, only to discover you've been sleeping with my husband for months. Lily's expression hardened defensively. I didn't plan for this. Neither did Ryan. We didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to, I echoed in disbelief. How thoughtful, yet somehow you managed it anyway. She shook her head, desperately trying to justify herself. Maddie, Ryan, and I, we couldn't control it. We tried to stop so many times. Don't you dare try to justify this. My voice rose sharply, filled with barely contained fury. You made a choice every single day, to lie, to deceive me, to betray me. Don't act like you're victims. Maddie, please listen, Lily begged, stepping forward, desperation coloring her voice. I've always been the screw-up. Ryan, he saw me. He made me feel important, like I mattered. You mattered to me? I shouted, my heart cracking further with every word. You mattered enough that I let you into my life without question, because you're my sister. She shrank back, suddenly speechless. You mattered enough that Ryan and I rearranged our lives for you, I continued, my voice trembling. But it wasn't enough, was it? Lily dropped onto the chair opposite me, burying her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook silently, but I felt no sympathy, only hollow emptiness. I can't fix this, she whispered finally. I wish I could, Maddie. I wish I'd never done it. I wish you hadn't either, I replied bitterly, standing to leave the room. But wishing doesn't change what you've done. I retreated to the bedroom, slamming the door behind me, collapsing onto the bed where I cried myself into an exhausted sleep, haunted by nightmares of Ryan and Lily together, laughing at my foolish trust. The next morning was painfully silent. Lily had already packed a bag and left, leaving behind a short note on the kitchen counter. "I know sorry isn't enough. I'll give you space." I stared at it numbly, crumpling it in my hand before tossing it away. Space wasn't what I needed. I needed answers, answers neither she nor Ryan had truly given me. Days turned into weeks, each dragging on miserably. Ryan called and texted repeatedly, begging for forgiveness, pleading to talk. But every time I saw his name flash on my phone, the ache in my chest only grew sharper, so I ignored him completely. My parents learned about our situation quickly and were horrified. My mother, deeply disappointed in Lily, couldn't even look at her. Our once close family felt utterly shattered. Despite my mother's constant calls, urging me to move home temporarily, I stubbornly refused, unwilling to abandon the home Ryan and I had built together, even if it now felt empty and hollow. I became withdrawn, avoiding friends, hiding behind excuses and lies. Every night, I replayed the betrayal, punishing myself by reliving every happy memory now tarnished by their deception. One evening, desperate for distraction, I finally went out for drinks with my friend Claire, who insisted on dragging me from my self-imposed isolation. "I can't keep watching you punish yourself like this," Claire said gently, handing me a cocktail. "None of this was your fault." "It feels like it," I whispered, staring blankly into my drink. How could I have missed something so huge, Claire? Was I blind, stupid, or both? "You were neither," Claire replied firmly, placing a comforting hand on mine. "You trusted the two people you loved most, as anyone would." Her words, intended to comfort, only deepened my ache. "Trust is exactly the problem," I murmured bitterly. "I trusted too easily." As Claire continued talking, my eyes wandered around the bar. My heart suddenly froze when I saw Lily sitting alone in a dark corner booth, drinking heavily, looking just as miserable as I felt. Anger and grief surged again, mixing with unexpected pity. I excused myself, ignoring Claire's protests, and walked directly toward Lily, who looked startled when she noticed me approaching. "Maddie," Lily's voice trembled, her eyes wide and afraid. "Why, Lily?" I asked quietly, my voice barely audible above the bar noise. "Just tell me why." Tears spilled down her cheeks, her voice cracking painfully. "Because I was selfish, lonely, and stupid. Because I envied your life. Because he made me feel special, even when I knew it was wrong." "I hope it was worth it," I whispered bitterly. "You lost me, you destroyed our family, and for what?" "It wasn't worth it," she whispered brokenly. "Nothing could ever be worth losing you." "Yet you chose it anyway," I said softly, my voice devoid of anger, replaced only by numbness. "You both did." Without another word, I turned and left the bar, leaving Lily alone at her table. Outside, I took a deep breath, my heart still aching fiercely, but clearer about one thing: my life, once filled with trust, love, and certainty, would never be the same again. 2 months after discovering the betrayal, my life was barely recognizable. Ryan had moved out completely, now staying in a tiny apartment downtown, and Lily was avoiding family gatherings entirely, hiding herself in guilt and shame. My parents were heartbroken, unsure how to support either of us without causing more pain. Our family, once tight-knit and full of laughter, had been reduced to polite silence and awkward phone calls. Ryan hadn't stopped trying to contact me, each message filled with apologies and empty promises. Despite the ache that wouldn't leave my chest, I refused to answer. I didn't want apologies or excuses, I wanted my life back, the one they'd taken from me. But loneliness was becoming unbearable. Our home, my home now, was haunted by memories. Everywhere I looked, I saw fragments of the happiness we'd built. I knew staying there was slowly killing me, yet leaving felt like surrender. My only distraction was teaching. My students' innocent energy was a brief escape from my crushing sadness. But even there, happiness was fleeting. Parents at school soon noticed my withdrawn demeanor and started whispering, adding another layer of humiliation. Colleagues glanced at me sympathetically, and I hated it, hated their pity, their hushed conversations behind closed doors. One afternoon, after dismissing my class, the principal gently pulled me aside, concern evident in his expression. "Madison," he began softly, "I hate bringing this up, but several parents have raised concerns about your emotional state. They say you seem distracted, unhappy. Are you okay?" I wanted to scream at him. How could I possibly be okay? But instead, I forced a smile, swallowing back tears. "I'm fine," I lied weakly, "just going through a rough patch." His eyes softened sympathetically. "If you need a leave of absence, we can arrange." "No," I cut him off sharply, panicking. Losing my job would mean losing the last stable part of my life. "I promise I'm managing." He didn't look convinced, but he nodded gently. "All right, just remember we're here for you." I left school that day feeling utterly defeated. The thought of losing my career, on top of everything else, made me nauseous. Alone in my car, I allowed myself to break down, sobbing bitterly until my chest hurt. Later that evening, I heard a quiet knock on my front door. Assuming it was my mother, who had been dropping by regularly, I opened it without thinking and froze. Ryan stood there, looking disheveled, dark circles under his eyes, clearly exhausted. My heart clenched painfully at the sight of him, a mixture of longing and rage fighting inside me. "What are you doing here?" My voice shook with anger and grief. "Maddie, please," he pleaded, voice thick with emotion. "I know you hate me, but I can't live like this anymore. I can't live without you." "You should have thought about that before," I snapped bitterly, starting to close the door. He stepped forward, stopping it gently. "Please, Madison, just hear me out. One conversation, that's all I ask." Part of me desperately wanted to slam the door in his face, but another, weaker part needed answers. Reluctantly, I let him in. We sat awkwardly in the living room, the same room we'd spent countless happy evenings. Now, silence stretched painfully between us. "I'm sorry," Ryan began softly. "I betrayed you in the worst way imaginable, and I'll never forgive myself." "Why did you do it?" I whispered, voice hollow. "I need the truth." He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "At first, it was just attention. Lily needed support, and you were so busy with work. It felt harmless, comforting her. But then, it became something else. Something neither of us intended." "You chose it, Ryan," I said sharply, my anger flaring again. "Every time you touched her, you chose to hurt me." "I know," he admitted miserably. "I got caught up. She made me feel needed, alive in a different way. I didn't see how deeply I was destroying everything until it was too late." "How long did you think you could hide it?" I asked bitterly. "Did you really believe you'd never get caught?" He shook his head helplessly. "Honestly, I didn't think at all. We both knew it had to stop, but we were selfish. It was like an addiction." I looked away, his words stabbing painfully. "What do you expect from me now, Ryan? Forgiveness?" "No," he whispered. "I don't deserve that. I just needed you to hear how sorry I am, how deeply I regret every single moment." I finally looked him in the eye, tears filling mine. "You destroyed everything I believed in, you and Lily. How can I ever trust anyone again?" He reached for my hand hesitantly, but I pulled away. "I wish I could undo it all," he murmured brokenly. "If there's any way, Madison, any chance at all." "I don't know if there's anything left," I interrupted softly. "Too much damage has been done." He nodded miserably, understanding. "I'll leave if you want me to." I hesitated, my heart screaming conflicting messages. Finally, I stood, motioning toward the door. "You should go," I whispered, barely audible. "I need to be alone." Ryan stood slowly, pausing before leaving. "I still love you, Madison, I always will." I said nothing, watching silently as he walked out the door once again, leaving me alone with my shattered heart and unanswered questions. I collapsed onto the sofa, numb and empty, realizing for the first time just how broken I'd become. After Ryan's visit, my days became even more isolated, darker, emptier. His confession of still loving me echoed in my head, confusing and tormenting me endlessly. How could someone claim love after such a devastating betrayal? It felt like emotional manipulation, yet I couldn't deny that part of me still missed him terribly. I missed the life we'd shared, the laughter, the security, things I now realized I'd always taken for granted. Weeks dragged painfully on. I avoided calls from my parents, turned away offers of help from friends, and slowly withdrew deeper into myself. Lily remained entirely absent from my life, only existing as a painful memory. Our broken relationship weighed on my heart constantly, yet forgiveness seemed impossible. One evening, desperate to break the relentless silence of my empty home, I started cleaning compulsively, as if scrubbing away physical dirt could somehow cleanse the emotional stains on my soul. In a desperate frenzy, I decided to finally clear out Ryan's remaining belongings: clothes, books, memories, tossing them angrily into boxes. Deep in our shared closet, I found a small black box tucked carefully behind a stack of sweaters. Curious, I opened it, and my heart sank instantly. Inside were dozens of folded handwritten letters, clearly written by Lily. My chest tightened painfully as I unfolded them one by one, reading words that shattered me all over again. Ryan, every night without you feels endless. I hate hiding what we have, but I'm terrified of losing Maddie. Still, I can't stop. You're my everything, my addiction. I'm yours completely, no matter the cost. Another read. I hate myself for betraying Maddie, but my need for you overshadows everything. Please promise me we'll be together someday openly. I can't survive without you. Letter after letter revealed a deeper betrayal than I'd imagined. Their affair wasn't a fleeting mistake. It was a profound emotional entanglement filled with promises, plans, and declarations of love. The realization crushed whatever tiny hope remained within me. The final letter made my stomach twist violently. I can't believe I'm pregnant. What do we do now, Ryan? I'm terrified of what Maddie will say. I'm terrified of losing you. But a part of me wants this. A child that's ours, even if it destroys everything else. Pregnant. My sister was pregnant with my husband's child. My knees buckled. I slid to the floor, trembling violently, nauseated, heartbroken. I clutched the letter tightly, feeling utterly betrayed and stupid for still holding onto a sliver of hope. Rage replaced grief, burning hotter and fiercer than ever before. My mind raced chaotically, and without thinking clearly, I grabbed my phone and dialed Lily's number, something I hadn't done since discovering the affair. It rang several times before she answered, her voice hesitant and fearful. Maddie, were you ever going to tell me? I demanded, voice shaking violently. Or were you hoping I'd never find out about your pregnancy? She gasped audibly, panic in her voice. How did you? I found your letters, Lily. I hissed bitterly. When were you planning on telling me that you're having my husband's child? Silence stretched painfully before she whispered, defeated, I didn't know how. I was terrified you'd hate me even more. That's impossible, I snapped harshly. You've already taken everything from me, and now you're taking even more. Maddie, please. Don't, I interrupted sharply. Whatever excuses or apologies you have mean nothing to me now. I don't want to see or speak to you again. Ever. I ended the call abruptly, feeling empty and numb. Minutes later, Ryan's number appeared on my phone, but I ignored it, feeling no desire to engage with him either. Days later, Ryan showed up unannounced once more, clearly desperate. I opened the door but blocked him from entering, voice cold and controlled. You knew she was pregnant and hid it from me, I accused, my voice shaking slightly. Why? Ryan hung his head in shame, guilt etched deeply across his face. We were both afraid of hurting you further. Congratulations, I said bitterly. You failed spectacularly. He stepped forward cautiously. Madison, I didn't plan this. No, I said coldly, cutting him off sharply. You never planned anything. You just acted selfishly and carelessly, and now I'm the one paying for it. Maddie, please, I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. Ryan pleaded, voice thick with tears. "Tell me what I can do." "You've done enough," I whispered brokenly. "Just leave. Go to Lily, your child's mother, and build whatever miserable future awaits you both." He stood there silently, defeated, finally understanding the magnitude of his loss. Without another word, he turned and walked away slowly, leaving me standing alone, utterly shattered. Over the following weeks, news spread quickly among our family and friends. Sympathy calls flooded my phone, messages filled with pity, anger, and disbelief. Lily's pregnancy turned my private heartbreak into a humiliating public spectacle. Friends whispered, family argued, and I withdrew even further into painful isolation. My parents called repeatedly, desperate to support me, but nothing they said could ease the crushing sense of betrayal. Lily's pregnancy felt like the ultimate insult, a permanent reminder of their deceit. I felt robbed not only of my marriage, but also my family, my dignity, and my future. I realized bitterly that Ryan and Lily had gotten exactly what they'd secretly wanted: a bond I could never break, a family built from the ruins of mine. And I was left with nothing but emptiness, bitterness, and grief. It took months before I finally gathered enough courage and strength to leave the house that had become my emotional prison. I sold the home Ryan and I had shared, the place filled with memories now twisted by betrayal, and moved into a small apartment closer to my school. It was modest, quiet, and perfectly devoid of painful reminders. Slowly, I began rebuilding my life, piece by agonizing piece. Teaching became my anchor, giving me purpose again, even as I struggled internally. Each day was a battle, but each tiny victory made me stronger. I saw a therapist weekly, and for the first time in months, I allowed myself to openly grieve, cry, and eventually begin to heal. During this time, Lily gave birth to her baby, a little boy named Oliver. Despite everything, the news tore at my heart. It hurt deeply, knowing the life I'd imagined with Ryan now belonged to her. My parents, torn between their daughters, navigated the situation with painful difficulty, constantly caught in the middle. They urged reconciliation, forgiveness, but I simply wasn't ready. One quiet evening, nearly a year after discovering their affair, my mother unexpectedly showed up at my door. Her eyes held deep sadness, her voice gentle but firm. "Maddie, I know how much you've been hurting, but there's something you should know." I tensed immediately, sensing bad news. "What now?" "Ryan left Lily," she said softly. "He told her he couldn't continue their relationship. He said it was built on lies and betrayal. He admitted he'd been wrong from the start. He regrets everything and wants to start over, but Lily is devastated." I felt no satisfaction, only bitter sadness and emptiness. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Lily needs you," my mother said cautiously. "She's alone, struggling, and deeply ashamed. She made horrible choices, Maddie, but she's still your sister." "I had a sister," I whispered brokenly, tears threatening again. "She took everything from me. Why should I help her now?" "Because she's family," my mother replied simply, eyes gentle. "And someday, maybe you'll find it in your heart to forgive, even if you can't forget." My mother left soon after, leaving me with conflicted emotions swirling painfully inside me. Days passed, and her words echoed endlessly in my head. Lily had hurt me unimaginably, yet the thought of her struggling alone, abandoned just as I'd been, unsettled me deeply. Finally, after weeks of agonizing debate, I picked up my phone, my heart racing painfully as I dialed Lily's number for the first time in almost a year. She answered immediately, voice shaking and filled with disbelief. "Maddie." "I'm not ready to forgive you," I started cautiously. "I don't know if I ever will be, but you're still my sister, and your baby, Oliver, is innocent in all of this. I can't promise you anything, but I'm willing to try to rebuild something between us." Lily broke down sobbing on the other end, her voice barely audible. "I don't deserve your kindness, Maddie. I ruined everything. You should hate me." "I do," I admitted quietly. "Part of me will always hate what you did, but maybe someday that won't matter as much. Maybe someday we can start over." We began cautiously rebuilding a relationship, not the one we had before, but something fragile and new. It was incredibly difficult, filled with awkward moments and painful memories. Seeing Oliver brought a complicated mix of pain and tenderness. His innocent smile, his laughter, they reminded me that life continues, even after devastation. Ryan tried repeatedly to reconnect, desperate to apologize, hoping for reconciliation. But while forgiveness for Lily was difficult yet possible, Ryan's betrayal felt irreparable. Eventually, I learned to ignore his messages, finally accepting that closure didn't always mean reconciliation. It sometimes meant walking away, stronger and wiser. As months turned into years, my life slowly reshaped itself into something different but meaningful. My family, although forever changed, began healing as well. Trust was slowly rebuilt, forgiveness given in small, careful pieces. Ultimately, I learned that betrayal leaves deep scars, yet those scars don't have to define the future. Love isn't about never being hurt, it's about finding strength to rebuild when it inevitably happens. Now, years later, as I sit in my new apartment, smiling softly at the photograph on my coffee table, me holding Oliver's tiny hand as he takes his first steps, I realize that forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about moving forward despite it, about choosing peace over bitterness, growth over anger. I thought discovering Ryan's betrayal and Lily's diary had destroyed my life, and in many ways it did. But it also taught me invaluable lessons about strength, forgiveness, and the resilience of the human heart. And the hardest lesson of all: sometimes you must lose almost everything you thought mattered to discover what truly does.